This is the Parent Portal Show.
You've seen prices rise from the dinner table to the pump, but Allstate agents are seeing ways to save you money on insurance. From starting a new policy to bundling coverage or even driving safely, Allstate agents know how to maximize your savings. They'll share their knowledge as they help you personalize your coverage. Because when it comes to seeing all the ways to save, Allstate agents do it best.
Mike Hammer has over 35 years as an Austin area Allstate agent. Call 512-343-6994 or visit MikeHammer@allstate.com.
Savings vary, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
You as well.
So the Parent Portal is what we're doing this morning, and the Parent Portal podcast. Could we get 3 more P's in there, James, just to make it?
I think we covered that.
Little alliteration.
Yeah.
So great to have this time together, and I think what we're trying to do is just explore a little bit more about name, image, likeness, and understand what parents ought to know when it comes to this important topic for high school athletes that are looking for some kind of opportunity later in the college arena. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's very, very valuable. And, as a dad and as a former coach, it is often one of those things that we as parents and even coaches don't fully understand, how this landscape is changing by the day.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to give your kids the best information they can so they can succeed. And, that's why I think this is such an exciting topic and a very relevant topic. It's gone are the days, I think, in my mind, where you can just show up and, it works for you. People are, being offered contracts when they're in high school.
Yeah.
And, they're building brands when they're in junior high sometimes. And it's a very, very important thing to be able to give just good, honest information in this moment, I think.
Yeah, it's so hard to do that research sometimes and really know where to go, where to get that voice of expertise that we're looking for. You and I have some great backgrounds that, I've gone through 2 boys already that have gone through high school ball and gone on to college. Neither of them ended up with any kind of college career path with sports. But I've got a younger one that it looks like that might be a real thing. I've certainly been around it all my life, as you have. I've coached a ton and certainly been around the high school athletes, been around the high school programs, and then on top of that, I just, as one of those parents, just like you, have sat in that seat and gone, wow, Coach, I need more information here. I have no clue what I need to be doing right now for my kid. And it is it's a moving situation, I think, and I think we're both kind of trying to figure that out a little bit, but we've certainly done a little bit of research that's helped us.
And to your point is like when we start doing this research, is like, where's the best place to go? Who's the authority?
Yeah.
Right now, there's a lot more questions than there are answers, and the revealing thing is like being able to see what the current state of affairs, if you will, is for these athletes, and then being able to say, here's what you can expect from it. Oh man, that's a challenge to find on an internet, because you may be talking about an athlete that is at the very top, and then an athlete that's good, but doesn't get that airspace or doesn't get that, the brand, if you will, or doesn't get the recognition. And as a result, the difference between a NIL deal can be, $50 and millions of dollars.
Sure.
And it's like understanding how that works, and then how do we increase our kids' worth? We are learning that information just like everybody else, but we found some interesting things out there for sure.
We got a lot to share.
Yeah.
Let's one other thing that I wanted to add to that is, not only is the challenge to go find those answers, but then to realize that those answers and those questions are changing almost daily right now. I mean, you and I have both seen that, right? Just
Yeah,
in
I mean,
the
just
week.
like we're in the middle of March Madness, and last night the Charlie Baker,
Yep.
who is the former governor and now the president of the NCAA, is talking about wanting to move the goalpost, if you will,
Yep.
and take it from the athletes where they're having a lot of control to athletes and parents, should I say, and that's very important.
Yeah.
And putting it where the government or politicians are having some of that say, and that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's a total game changer.
Right. Well, and so that's the challenge: is how can you stay abreast of what's the newest, greatest, latest, and it is changing. We've got congressional influence going on here. We've got the NCAA influence. We've got politicians on all levels trying to figure this out, for which a lot of us not necessarily want to see that.
Right.
But the rules are it's there aren't a lot of rules written yet.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah, it really
It
feels
really
that way.
is,
Yeah.
right? And so how do we as parents, how do we play in that? How do we as coaches advise in that? And I think that's why this podcast is here. There's a need for it. And I think that need is going to continue to grow as this situation grows and plays itself out.
I'm excited.
I am too.
Well, let's start with a little bit of background about you and I, right?
Sure.
So, my story is I grew up in West Texas, was born in San Diego, California, but moved to West Texas as soon as we could.
Yeah.
Grew up in Odessa, Texas, and belonged to a little football program you might have heard of called Odessa Permian.
Mojo.
It was Mojo, and I was very fortunate to arrive at that school and play at that school when it was a little bit of in its heyday. We had some great championship teams. I played on a championship team.
Okay.
But my story was a little bit different than maybe some of the other kids that came through there. I did not make varsity my junior year. And at Odessa Permian, if you didn't make varsity, you were considered a scrub. You were probably not going to play, on varsity level. You probably wouldn't be starting. And so it was very disheartening to be a part of this big program, this elite program at times, it seemed like. But yet still, I decided to kind of struggle through it and worked very hard during the summer. And I ended up doing some pretty cool things and ended up being an all-state champion. Our team went and won the championship. And then I ended up being an all-state player, so that kind of ended up being pretty cool in and of itself. So there's a lot of cool things there. But that's kind of relevant to your story a little bit.
Yeah, well, I kind of came into sport. I grew up in just outside of Waco, Texas, small town. And football was just like Friday Night Lights for us. We shut down the city and everybody went to wherever the game was. And so that was our background. And, we all grew up as a community and family. Mm-hmm. And what affected one affected the some. Mm-hmm. And when I was a senior in high school, I broke my neck. Mm. And as a result, my whole life changed. I went from being in sport to being an adaptive sport.
Right.
And for about the first 5 or 6 years, I just kind of tried to figure out what had happened. Really, I got my education, went to school, got a bachelor's degree in psychology, and, started off thinking I was going to be a real estate salesman. And somebody introduced me to adaptive sport, and it really changed my life. I got introduced to a sport called wheelchair rugby, which if you've never seen it, it's full contact in a chair played on a basketball court. And they made a movie about it. It was nominated for an Academy Award called Murderball.
Yeah.
Get a chance, go check it out. It's really, really cool. But I got introduced to this stuff, and I found it probably when I was 25 or 26. Mm-hmm. And I played it, and it was great. And I got that same feeling that you get when you play, football and basketball, the team and everything else. I had lost it, and I found it. And so it really took for me. And I went from being an okay player to a good player. I wouldn't say I was ever a great player. I was captain of the USA development team at my heyday. but I was commuting back and forth between Austin and Houston. And Houston had a very competitive team, and I wanted to play competitively. So I sold my real estate business and said, I'm just going to live out of my backpack and play sport. And so we decided to start a team here in Austin. So I was coaching and playing, and they said, you're not doing either one of them right. And so I'm looking at 30, 31, in age years, and I was like, it's a lot easier to yell at these guys than it is to chase them down now. And so I was introduced to coaching and really had some incredible mentors, and they brought me into the USA program. And so I began my Olympic/Paralympic journey in 2000 as a coach for Team USA. And then in 2004, I took over as the head coach for Team USA and retired in 2021 as the coach, and got into wheelchair football by accident, and now I am the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys Wheelchair Football Club, which is, if you've never seen that, it looks just like sevens.
Yeah.
Football sevens, and I love it. But more than anything else, it allows me the opportunity to share something with my kids. I have twins. I have boy-girl twins, and my son is a big sports person.
Sure.
And so we get to share football both adaptively as well as normal, able-bodied, if you will. But he's at that age now, right, where seventh grader, and there's a lot of interest in what does high school look like. Then
Sure.
Where do I go play football after that? Because that's what he wants to do, and you're a parent, you want to support that. So I mean, all of this is very, very relevant. Fits into my background and my wheelhouse, and it's exciting. I never thought as a parent that I would be this engaged in something that crossed over into my world.
Sure.
And lo and behold, doors open, and it's we're here.
Well, and our paths cross because both our kids are at the same school. And
Yep.
You're seventh grade, I'm eighth grade,
Right.
and you started asking a couple of questions, and I started giving you some answers and
Right.
saying, "Hey, let me give you a little background here. Let
Yeah.
me give you a little more advice." And having been there, done that, it did make sense to offer some of those answers that you guys were going through some of the same things that we had already gone through with my two older boys. So it was very nice to share with you some of the, hey, James, let me warn you what you got in front of you.
Yeah.
And it was great that we had a couple of coffees where I could sit and chat about it and give you some background and thoughts. And that same kind of advice is what I hope we're able to do today through this podcast. I would love for someone who's able to just kind of sit over a shoulder and say, hey, hang on there. You may think this is the path to be going down, but guess what? There's a different, better way to do it. And even this week, I had the chance to visit with one of our team moms, which, by the way, those team moms they got a lot of info sometimes.
They do.
And she shared with me some things about just some recruiting and things that were going on and chat groups that we needed to be a part of for my younger boy. Right. And that was valuable. And so you can't, the community of football or the community of youth sports, I think, is where to really go. My youngest boy is a multi-sport player, right. And because of that, we're always trying to figure out what do we need to be doing for baseball, what do we need to be doing for football, and there are a lot of different advices that you'll get on all of this stuff, and to have someone who said, okay, hang on, let me tell you how it's going to work when you get to high school. There's different paths that you need to consider. And I think that's valuable for anyone. Hopefully, someone who's listening today will say, hey, Nolden, Gumbert, they have some pretty good advice for us.
It's revealing, as you said, as like I treat it as like we're sitting in that coffee shop. And, it's very, as a person that has a lot of knowledge but doesn't have knowledge about this, that knowledge is going to give you power to be able to make good choices, and that's what we're all here talking about. And to have that pay it forward mentality, you've provided that to me, and I think one of the most revealing things you said is like, you got to think not just seventh grade. And, you know, as coming from a coach, I was like, wow, how did I miss that? But it's really, you're thinking eighth, ninth grade. You're thinking sixth grade, you know, and you're thinking whether it's my daughter's playing on this basketball team. When she hits high school, and she's been playing seventh grade and then eighth grade, she's going to be playing with different people, not just from different schools that feed into a high school, but she's going to be playing with seniors and juniors probably.
Yeah.
You know, if she's excelling as an athlete. And so very revealing, and I probably would have missed it until I was in it. And so that I really like this opportunity to pay it forward to the sixth grader, to the fifth grader, because there's somebody like me in sixth grade right now going, how do I get my kid better?
Right.
You know, and then they're asking the same questions, and the coaches are going, where's the book that we could just hand them, you know?
Right.
And it's to have those parents that have these conversations really makes a difference. And I think that this podcast will absolutely help in that realm so that the next person isn't reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is a great opportunity. I think one of the things that helps us get to where we want to be is certainly the realization that as that community, we know that there are parents who have questions and answers to things that maybe you and I, even as we're exploring through this, you know, I was very fortunate. As a career path, I did market research for a number of years. Sure. So you know, that natural curiosity or that desire to get those facts correct, you know, when you're putting it out there, that certainly helps me, drives me to kind of keep moving. But what I think is good to do is to make sure that we understand this as an exploration, right? We're on a path. And we're all in it together. We have a community that we're with, and what we're trying to do is move forward to help find the correct path that we're going to. I'm very fortunate. 2 of my 3 boys have already become Eagle Scouts. My youngest one is on that path, and it's an exploration. And I love the way the Boy Scouts describe that journey to Eagle. And I think when you start talking youth sports, you and I have not only the desire for these our kids to do well in youth sports, whatever that looks like, but we want them to become better kids, you know, better leaders, better
people.
Yeah, better people.
It's exactly right. And I mean, if you make a great athlete that can run fast and throw far, that's what you have. But if you can make a better person, better leader, better friend, I mean, you've done your job. I mean, as a coach, you know, our first rule is always do no harm, but it's always about making not just the player but the individual better.
Yeah,
and it's a challenge at times. Some are easier than others, but it's the journey is worth it because you're working on the people that are going to be leading tomorrow.
Yeah,
and to know that you are part of that, and hopefully you do it well enough that when they get there, right, they're able to lead not just their generation, but help with ours, and then pass it along to the next person better.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah. A path to excellence. I love that thought, and I think one of the things that we want to explore is how does any kid who, let's just be very honest here, not every kid's going off to college.
That's right.
Go play college sports.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, it's a very small percentage, you know, and that doesn't mean you can't still get the most out of the path that you're on, and that is certainly something that we should probably dig into as we move forward.
I think so. And here's the thing. As you said, the percentage is so small, right? But when you look in these professional schools, these D1 schools, if you will, and then you take them and you look in the professional world, you don't see every one of the athletes coming from a Power 5 conference. A lot of these people come from Southwest Central University, and they stand out because they learned early on how to be not just great athletes, but to our point, they learned how to be great people.
Yeah.
And when you reach the highest level, everybody can run fast. Everybody can throw
Yeah.
far. It's the person that fits in
Yeah.
that's going to just, separate yourself. And if that person went to Southwest Central University and they can do the same thing that somebody went to a Power 5 conference, but they do it with no distraction. They do it with, style, and they're a great ambassador. They're going to take that person. They're going to take them every day. So, yeah.
So that is even more so today with the player portal. Now
Yes.
you have kids that go off to JUCO and go to schools where they're a bench warmer, and next thing you know, they're transferring to a school that appreciates their talents and are able to use their talents. There's a number of, there's a number of stories. We can get into those
Right.
a little bit, but Texas University just had a kid a few years ago that go down to SMU and become a star athlete, quarterback. for them.
100%.
Yeah, so that's not an unusual story.
And the same way, Sir Jabari Rice,
Yep.
who was out in the middle of West Texas, New Mexico,
Yeah.
and wasn't on anybody's radar except Texas radar. Somebody brought it to him and said, "You got to look at this guy."
Yep.
And he just went there and, played his butt off and got recognized. And now,
NCAA,
the
baby.
NCAA's
Here
in
we are.
March
March
Madness.
Madness.
And it's like, so I think the other thing that I would just caution parents as we go through this journey together is saying, like, my kid's going to be at a Power 5 conference and they're going to start.
Right.
May not happen.
No.
We wanted to,
Yeah.
but in the interim, what do you do to keep that going if that's your kid's dream? That's your drive is to make your kids' dreams happen. Is like, what do you do when you go to Southwest Central University, and how do you support her
Yep.
to be able to, when that time comes and that opportunity comes, that shot, you are your best agent, and I think that I find so much as we've done this research that points me to saying it doesn't matter always where you go. It's not how you drive, it's how you arrive. It's old golf saying, but it's very, very true. It's how you arrive. So, yeah. But
I like it. All right. Well, so let's jump into a little bit of a discussion about my path.
okay.
I came out of Odessa Permian. That is a very unique situation, and it is one of these things where, as wonderful as it was, there were moments when it was a little bit scary about what Texas high school football is all about. And there's certainly the book and the movie and all that, and we'll get into that at some point in time. But what was interesting for me is you elevate when you become a part of that team. You become a little bit of a hero in that city. It's a West Texas town, just kind of like you described how it shuts down on Friday nights, and everyone goes there. And that's great, and it's a wonderful feeling, and it puts you on top of the hill a little bit. But there's a downside to it, and the downside ends up being around just a little bit of the hero worshiping that happens. So as a kid, 18-year-old kid, after we won our state championship game, I'm at the Odessa Mall signing footballs for 6-year-olds, right? And that's over the Christmas break and all that, and that's pretty heady. And unfortunately, I feel like some of the guys that I played with never really got past that heyday. That's not a great way to kind of pinnacle or spike for or reach your peak that early in life when all you've done is really just played high school football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you look at that, and whether it's injury like Boobie Miles,
Yeah.
or whether you're in that situation where you reach the pinnacle as you describe, and then you don't take it anywhere else. That for the rest of your life, you just refer back to what you just did.
Yeah.
You don't have that. How do you plan for the next step? And as you said, the hero kind of complex. It's a real thing. As a coach on an elite level, you see athletes that come from programs that you feel like, are going to just knock it out of the park, and they're pretty average.
Yeah.
And then when you tell them they're pretty average, it's devastating.
Yeah.
They don't understand it. They don't have any way of knowing other than, well, when I played for Odessa Permian, I was this.
Mm.
And so you step through another door and there's 10 other people that look like you.
Yeah.
And it's a giant shock to the system to find out there's somebody better than you.
Yeah.
Especially when your whole world revolves around everybody telling you you are the one.
So my story is I went off to a D3 school, Lubbock Christian College.
Okay.
I got recruited by one of the coaches at Odessa Permian to go to that school, and he went also. So we ended up there. I went through 3-a-days, which was kind of a new concept for me. It was pretty intense, but I will say after about 2 weeks, I was done. It was brutal. And, without any slander to the Lubbock Christian College program, it was not at the caliber that I was used to having played in high school at Odessa Permian. So I left, came back to Odessa. But, thinking through that, at that point in time, I got a few offers, and they were not I was the kind of kid that said, hey, I want to play at University of Texas or I don't want to play anywhere,
right,
because that's all I thought I was worthy of at that point. I did get a offer to go play at Texas A&M, and it was the craziest thing. Being the young kid that I was, I thought that was below me. Having looked, now that I've been much older and much wiser, I absolutely made a mistake there. But I didn't. My parents did not go to college. They went to some college, but they didn't have that advice that I needed, and they didn't understand youth sports at all or football. And so I didn't get the right advice, and I didn't get the right mentor at that time to say, Noel, you really need to look at this pretty hard and figure out what you're going to do.
Was that a question? And forgive me. Was that you get offered this opportunity at Texas A&M, and you come in, you look at it, and you say, what do you say? Because obviously your parents are going to have an influence. Hopefully your coach has an influence. Probably your friends had a little bit of influence in it. And did the decision come down to just you, or was it a community of people saying, no, it's right, or no, it's wrong, yes, it's right, you should do this?
Wow, great question. And I think looking back on it, I think I was operating a little bit too much in a vacuum. Okay. It was an unusual offer, and it was done not quite the way protocol is nowadays. It was done by an alum, not by a coach.
Okay.
And so that was a very, get out of school, go meet with the alum. Very, a little bit shady, honestly. Okay. So maybe at the end of the day, that wasn't the legitimate offer and the legitimate opportunity, but he was trying to support me in a way that he felt I could have a better chance of succeeding. I appreciate that. I mean, I really think he had my best interests at heart, but at the end of the day, I walked away from that, and it's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think that's the whole reason for this podcast.
Yeah.
In a granular level is because as we dig down into this, we want to be able to give those parents who are, Stephen Nold years ago, that opportunity to not just go, well, I hope, we're telling them the right thing, but I know I'm giving them the best information based on, what we're talking about here, because those opportunities, they're few and far between, whether it's, I keep using the analogy of Southwest Central University, whoever or whatever it is, those opportunities don't happen that's more of the, I don't want to say it. It is not the normal.
Yeah.
It is definitely when you get an opportunity, you evaluate it. And being as a parent now on the other side, I'm going, okay, I'm not going to take the first thing that happens. But the first thing that happens might be the best thing, right? You don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it with research and understanding what they're offering and what the limitation and expectations are, because that's what I want to do for my kid. Take all this passion I had to see them play and excel and everything else, and give them the best advice because they're 18.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you were 17 or 18 at
Yeah.
this point, and it's like, the ability to make $1 million decisions, and that's what I'll say in this kind of conversation. I don't know how well 18-year-olds are consistently making $1 million decisions that'll affect their life forever.
Yeah. Well, and then, James, now sprinkle in the NIL discussion,
Yeah.
which just changes the whole topography, because now all of a sudden we're talking about being able to make money kind of anywhere, anytime, anyhow. There's a sponsor right down the street. They may be wanting you to sell chicken for them, and now all of a sudden you've got a deal where you're bringing in money and you're still having a chance to play D1, D2, D3 college athletes that are wanting to be a part of this. So it's a different world that we're living in.
So let me ask you a question to follow up on your story at Lubbock Christian. What did that do for you as far as how did that make you the person you are today? Better, worse, whatever. How did that affect that kid that we're going to be talking to, and about as they make their decisions? How does that compare to that?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
So it did change me. It changed my attitude about college, and what it changed was my determination to get through an undergraduate degree.
Okay.
At that point, I was serious, and I went back to Odessa. I worked for a semester, went to Odessa College, got some basics out of the way, continued to take some of the core curriculum that I needed, knowing that at one point in time, I was going to go ahead and apply to the University of Texas. I did that. I got through my undergraduate degree, and it made me focus on what was important, and that was that college education. So the rest of my story is, of course, I went off and got my graduate degree, and so I don't look back. It's one of those things that went the way it went, and I'm very pleased with it.
So would you say that in addition to developing your skill sets, there was another level of maturity that was gained in those couple of years that you probably didn't have when you were 18 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a real important thing as we're talking to parents out there is like going, 18-year-old is still a kid in a lot of ways, and they need that maturity. And that's where we as the parent, the influence, the social, the community that it's around them, that's where we got to give them all the tools that they can take and put in their bag to make those good decisions early on, because there's going to be those roadblocks, like what you talked about. There's going to be that adversity, and being able to get there and understand that you can overcome it. A lot of kids never get that. Yeah. They get there and then they fall off, and then that's where we lose kids.
Yeah, you used the word maturity, and let me say that's a real important word, because I was that 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid at the University of Texas, and I will tell you, a lot of kids are not mature. And, hey, best intentions are there sometimes, and maybe it's parents more so than the kids. But let's not forget, these are kids that are still got undeveloped brains going on.
Right.
And those boys and girls at times, there's some bad decisions that are going to be made. There's
every
no
single
doubt about
day
it.
of the week, it feels like, right? Right. And I mean, now you're giving them money.
Yeah.
And it's not like, hey, they're calling home saying, hey, can I, have money for gas, or hey, can I come home and get a meal? It's like, what happened to Johnny? Well, Johnny's going out to dinner every night and entertaining his friends, and he doesn't come home because he doesn't have to anymore, but he's still making bad decisions at times.
Well, there's that group of people he's surrounded by too.
Exactly.
Right. And
right.
That's one of the things you and I are trying to figure out.
Yes.
Too, right?
Yes. Well, that's a very interesting story, and I bet it's played out every day, every week, every month, out of every year for families like ours, where you're just trying to do the right thing, and let's do it from a place where we can make good choices based on good information.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah, Hey, last night, I don't know if you saw it during the
Did not.
March Madness.
I'm still at the track meet.
Still at the track meet. But during March Madness, Charlie Barker, who is the former governor of Massachusetts,
Okay.
he was on during one of the halftime pregame shows, and he was talking about his new role as the NCAA president and what one of his first things that they wanted to accomplish was really something to go with NIL. And I thought, oh my gosh, the landscape is changing again. Today we're seeing Charlie Barker, our former governor of Massachusetts and now the NCAA president, comes out and says, like in his first real job description, this is what he wants to do with NIL.
I spoke with him earlier, asked about his number one priority moving forward.
Well, there is this basketball tournament that landed just about the same time I landed. I think the other thing I would speak to specifically is trying to create some what I would call consumer protections for families and student athletes around name, image, and likeness, which one of the ADs referred to as the only thing that's true about it at this point is everybody lies. So I would love to create some transparency and accountability around that so that families actually know what they're getting into, and I would really like to see some sort of uniform standard contract so that when somebody signs it, they know they're signing the same kind of agreement everybody else is signing.
And in that, along those lines, how do you anticipate that being done and accomplished going forward?
Well, there's a couple opportunities there. One is obviously we're going to talk some with the folks in Washington about this, and there's a fair amount of appetite to try to deal with this. They've been hearing from a lot of the same people I've been hearing from. But I think it's incumbent on the NCAA to also develop a program that we believe we could implement if the feds can't actually put something together on their own. The only problem with it is if the feds do it, all 50 states comply. If we do it, we have to perhaps nudge some states and their collegiate programs into participating because they may have state laws that don't require that they play.
Well, you don't already do that. That's just crazy.
Did he say we're going to ask the politicians to help us? See, that pisses me off already. Our politicians are awful people. As I talked to Clark earlier, because I asked him about y'all conversation, I would actually go to people who actually care about basketball, not looking at it just themselves.
Yes.
I would put a committee together. I would love for Clark to be on the committee, get some coaches, get some players, and let's try to work this thing out. We can't ask these politicians nothing. Those people are awful people. Democrats and Republicans, they're all crooks.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Charlie Baker's got a lot of worms there that he's opening up.
so I see that, and I am. They're wanting to put it in the hands of the federal government.
Just the use of the word feds is just completely, in my mind, the wrong path for him to go.
Well, it's because, and this speaks to what our podcast is they've lost total control over what is happening right now, and it's the Wild West,
Yeah.
right? And as a result, they're trying to put some uniformity to it, and I'll be honest, there needs to be some standardization. But when you say that the athlete in Anchorage, Alaska, that is playing lacrosse looks like the same thing as an athlete that's playing football in Texas or playing softball in Oklahoma, I think you're talking about two different animals. And if you try to put them in the same room, it doesn't work always the way you think it might. And for us, as parents, it's like right now it's the golden years. I feel that these are the times to get your negotiations in and to get your brands beginning and to get your direction going, because we are the ones that are going to be influencing whatever contract, whatever standard, whatever comes next, because the people that left it for us left it a mess.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about Charlie Baker saying everybody lies?
I think that's unfortunate. I think it is, because you hope in all your leadership, that they're doing it for the right reason. And we said this earlier, is like we're trying to build good people. with our kids.
Yeah.
We should be good people as adults that are leading and guiding these people. And I think that the other side of this coin is that for a very long time, there have been people, there have been universities, there have been corporations that have benefited from athletes that never made it past the beginning stages of excelling, and they never saw any of the rewards of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a history of stories, athletes that just got abused by the system.
Right.
And what worries me, James, is when we come to this table where you've got all these professionals sitting there with brands and the attorneys and the marketing agencies, and the only two people that do not have that professional expertise of knowledge of how this whole game is played is the parent and the athlete.
You're exactly right. I'm going to give you a perfect example of this.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson right now is in negotiations to arguably be the highest paid quarterback that ever played.
Yep.
And he's representing himself.
Mm.
And Lamar is a fantastic, phenomenal, generational talent on the field. But I don't know that he's that same phenomenal agent that he needs to be able to get the kind of deal that he's searching for. It's all of us need, when we go to a doctor for a reason, because that's their expertise.
Yeah.
We go to a lawyer when we need to because that's their expertise. In this world right now, is like it's mom and dad and kiddos trying to make these decisions, and they're making it from where? There's a lot of times it's just guessing.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough to watch that and understand that there's just a lot of problems that people are going to be facing in the near years, and the parents are going to be unfortunately right in the middle of that, and they're the ones that stand to lose the most, right? The athletes and the parents, because the brands are going to take care of themselves. Everyone else at that table is going to take care of themselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's and as a parent, you're saying, hey, Johnny, he's ready to go, and Johnny's like going, I'm ready to go, and then an agent comes along and they're in it for themselves, or a brand comes in and they're in it for themselves. And I've seen it just like you, where an athlete gets caught up in that moment, and then it becomes less about what got them there.
Yeah.
They forget where they come from, if you will. You think Vince Young, holy mackerel, he'd be a gillionaire,
Right.
in today's world. But the other side of that is that everything that's surrounding him, the environment, the people, maybe whatever, took away from his ability to perform on the field. That's what got him there.
Yeah.
And you know what? Those brands will go away. Those agents will go away when the performance comes down.
Yep.
Right?
When that spotlight goes away, it's all over.
Yeah, you're sitting in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is absolutely a concerning situation right now, obviously. And but one thing that he did say, and I want to touch on this for just a moment, that idea about a contract is a great idea, standardizing. So it's a level playing field for the athletes that are coming in. But it should be a process. That's where I wish he would have backed out a little bit and said, we don't need just the contract, but we need the whole process of how players engage with the brands, engage with the universities, and everyone that's coming to the table. There's a level playing field back to that, because that's what the NCAA should be all about, right?
You'd hope.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's teasing out, those things that work well.
Yeah.
And keeping them, but saying, okay, this was we got off our track here somewhere, and it's, I think, again, taking us back to the parent and the kid making these decisions in high school is like understanding that's being uncomfortable in being comfortable in being uncomfortable. That's a very, I really teach that a lot. It's like, I'm uncomfortable about making this decision, right? It's like being able to hold yourself and saying, it's okay to be uncomfortable, right? Being comfortable in that space and then knowing how to work in it. Do I need to get better here? Do I need better knowledge? Do I need better skill sets? Whatever it is, so that when you're in that moment,
Yeah.
you're not going, well, I just don't know what to do, and you don't do anything.
Yeah.
You just you find yourself going, well, Lubbock Christian offered us this, right?
Right.
And I didn't know, and so I took it. How many kids are out there doing that?
Yeah.
More than you would believe.
Well, and that influence, right?
Right.
Hey, if a coach comes to me and says, "Hey, this is what you ought to do, Noel, because you haven't figured it out yet,"
Right.
I don't know any better, right?
Right.
We
And
don't know any better.
That's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we're trying to do is say, it's okay to be uncomfortable because you don't know. Let's get you queued up. Let's get you smart on what you're doing here so that you can make those great decisions for your kids.
Yeah.
And they can help. They athlete needs to understand because they're going to be the one living the life. It's not just the parent that needs to understand this. They do.
Yeah.
But those parents are the ones. That's their direct education is to their athlete to their kid is being able to say, here's what we need to do. And the 18-year-old kid going, okay.
Yeah, having that confidence,
Yes,
right?
and-
Knowing what you need to know.
Yeah, you look at somebody that comes in and does an apprenticeship. They don't put them at the top of the company.
Mm-mm.
They start at the bottom, right? And they learn the trade
Yep.
all the way up. Well, if you are teaching your kid this is what to expect, it's kind of the Wild West out here. You can expect an agent to come to you. You can expect a brand to come to you. You can expect maybe a different university to come offer you a different scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to go, okay, now the kid gets it. We can have that conversation together as parent and kid and make really good decisions as opposed to, I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great thoughts.
So, Stephen, I don't know. Last night, the NCAA final or not final
Sweet
four,
16.
Sweet
Here we
16
go,
was
baby.
still going, right?
Yeah.
This morning we wake up and lo and behold, there's an NI deal out on the table, and looks like Doritos
Okay.
has reached out to Sir Jabari Rice, who was one of these athletes that we
Oh
were
my
talking
gosh.
about. And
What a great player.
what
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it goes back to that school that didn't come from like a Power
Yeah.
5 and made his way to a Power 5.
Yeah.
Kept grinding, kept working, and now he's being recognized on the biggest stage.
Right? He's made it, right? This last year at Texas. I mean, this is his last year, right? He's not.
I believe so.
Is he gonna go one more year?
I don't know.
That's part of the question. right?
That's part of the question, right? So it's exciting because it speaks to the athlete that puts in that effort, that puts in that
Yeah.
work, and doesn't give up not just on himself but on his team. You're talking about a player that's on a team now, and you're only as good as your team.
Sure.
And so that investment, whether it's football, which we've kind of talked about a little bit,
Yeah.
or basketball, or softball,
Sure.
or volleyball, whatever it is, when you put yourself in those team sports, you're not only trying to make yourself better, but you're trying to make that team better.
Yeah.
He arguably was the sixth man for
Yeah.
this team, if you will, and made such a good name for himself. There you go, Doritos, which is a major brand. And
Yeah.
as we go through this podcast, we'll talk about, the levels of different types of brands that are, picking up on this
Sure.
this stuff and getting into it. But Doritos is a heavy hitter.
Oh, dude,
in
I know
our
him well.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I think we both do, right? They are heavy hitters in this world, and they're recognizing it, and they're jumping on board.
Yeah. All right. Well, so it looks like we've got, a little bit of March Madness information here, and it just came out last night. And they absolutely have brought on some additional sponsors. So you got Buick, Continental Tire, Goldman Sachs have all entered this space in the past few weeks. This is just getting hot, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I saw some information that was out on the internet that was talking about of the 100 most watched events last year.
Yeah.
85 of those were sports,
That
whether
makes
it be
some-
football, soccer, or
Sure.
anything else. That was 85 of the 100 events that people watched most on TV
Yeah.
were this. And so this is where their advertising dollars are being seen.
Yeah.
The stuff that you see during the the Super Bowl. They spend millions of dollars on those commercials for a reason because they have so many eyes on it. I'm gonna throw one more thing out here as we're talking about this.
Sure.
Is yesterday I had the opportunity to go to the Dell match play tournament. Could not believe the amount of ladies that were there to just watch.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, there's engagement here.
Yeah.
Where I would have never seen that before in my wildest years. And not only were they, I sat and talked with them. It's like, hey, you here for, and they were here. We're here because we like it. We love it. And it's like, holy moly, that's who these advertisers are going to. It's not just the guy sitting on his couch that's a weekend warrior. It's that lady that wants to, follow not just a guy sport, but a gal sport.
Yeah.
And they're out there and they got that money that they're spending on products. Why not spend it on our product?
Sure.
And that's what these people are seeing, and they want their brand to be represented by people that look like Serge or Barry Rice, or they look like Kat Osterman, or something like that, so that they're associated with a winner.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to how you build your brand.
Yeah. Well, and there's algorithms now, right? That just completely measures all this. On3's got that proprietary algorithm that they use to kind of rank NIL value.
Sure.
And that, to me, as a number cruncher guy, my early market research days, when, oh, by the way, I was with Frito-Lay as a customer, it was one of those things where if you crunch the numbers and you are able to kind of establish this is what the numbers are, now all of a sudden you're showing value in a way that people didn't measure, 5-10 years ago. So it's getting pretty exciting with that.
Well, it's that AI a little bit, right?
It is.
And, you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, I keep bringing us back to, mom and dad and kids sitting around the table going, what is the right choice here?
Right.
And you don't always see Serge Abari Rice at the end of the rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely don't see all the waves of ups and downs getting to that place.
Sure.
And
I was probably pretty lonely at New Mexico State.
I bet you were, right? I bet he was too. It's like it's out in the middle of they call it the land of enchantment, but it's like it's out in the middle of
it's
nowhere.
a beautiful state. Don't get me wrong there,
but
you're playing college ball there. You're a long way away from
4 hours from everywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And so you're in that place, and then it's all of a sudden you're here.
Yeah.
And now it's like, is this his hero moment?
Right.
This weekend, does he get that opportunity to go pro?
Sure.
Which is a whole nother, part of it. But that was his dream when he was sitting around that table with mom and dad and saying, okay, can we do this? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's give our kids that opportunity with education and wisdom so that they can go, not like, I don't know, but yeah, we can do this.
Yeah.
And we know it's going to be a challenge, but we can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the message, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
there's that confidence again.
Yes, right? It's like
it.
You can't put yourself in a place where you're expecting everything that you're asking for, spiritually, physically, and mentally, to be on the same page with, I don't know. It's got to be, let's go.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, dead on.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're bringing this podcast to an end today, but man, Takeaways.
What do you think?
Well, we've talked about who we are, and
Yeah.
I think that's when I sit down and listen or watch a podcast, it's important to know who we're dealing with, and I think we both come across as very passionate people that believe in our kids and want the best for them. And what is it that we're trying to do with this? And it's like we're trying to educate. We're not trying to sell something. We're not trying to go out here and put ourselves in a place where we're not. We're trying to educate families, parents, athletes, kiddos on what is best practices in this ever-changing world.
Yeah.
And I think that the last thing is where do we go?
Yeah.
Where do we go with this? Well, I mean, as you've seen in this podcast, in the past 3 days, it's been seismic moves that are happening, and people making like suggestions of even bigger moves for this, this part of sport. And I think it gives us a lot of bandwidth to sit down and have that coffee over the table with the parents and say, here's where you can come find that information. And one of the things that we're going to be able to try and do is bring in people that are able to help us. I know that you have had some fantastic ideas of where we want to bring in guests, and you want to
Sure.
share that with the audience.
Yeah, it is about a community, right? And you and I have talked about it's really a community effort. It's a way that we can bring in the coaches and the players, and talk to some of the kids that are going through this challenge. Some of the coaches that have been there, done that. Some of the kids that have been there, done that. Yeah. And you and I are very fortunate. We're very blessed that we have some in our reach that we can connect with and bring into this discussion. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we're on a path. I think we're sharing our journey with others that are interested to hear a little bit more about it, and hopefully that those around us are going to enjoy the trip and the journey in front of us, and we'll see where we end up.
Yeah, that's exciting. And be sure, if you're parents, make sure that you pay it forward a little bit. Reach out to other parents who are in this same position. If you're an athlete that's watching this, make sure that your buddies are watching this. Make sure that they're getting that opportunity and that word out, so that you come from a place of power.
Yeah, and
that's the best that we can hope for from our kids, is that we give them the education and the power to make good choices.
Love it. Yeah. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
I'm excited.
This is the Parent Portal Show.